Hey everyone, it's Sammy from Push Square, and I wanted to put up a video today talking a little bit about Xbox Scorpio or Project Scorpio or whatever the hell they're calling it right now. I don't want to delve too much into it because obviously this is a PlayStation channel, we talk about PlayStation stuff, but there is always like a wider discussion about what's going on in the industry at large, and obviously last week Microsoft revealed the specs for Project Scorpio at last. It's been almost a year we've been coasting off information from that 90-second trailer, and I have to give Microsoft massive credit. They built up an enormous amount of hype within hardcore circles based on pretty much no information at all, so credit for that. But yeah, I don't want to talk about the specs and all that stuff too much. But I did want to talk about one thing which I really think they're doing properly, and there are aspects of Scorpio, or sort of the pitch that they gave to Digital Foundry anyway, that you can tell they've learned from some of the mistakes that Sony made with the PS4 Pro. Obviously the PS4 Pro was first to market, it's the first kind of iterative hardware model we've seen out of Sony, and they got a few things wrong. I think one of the things they got wrong was the way they revealed the console. I think we can all agree that showing 4K content on a low resolution live stream didn't play out as well as they'd hoped. You kind of needed to see it in person really to get the full effect of how much more impressive it is. But I think one of the things that Scorpio's doing well, that they touched upon in this Digital Foundry article, is that they've pledged super sampling as a standard across every game. Now, if you don't know what super sampling is, it's kind of, if you're playing a PS4 Pro game on a 1080p television, what happens is the game is rendered at its 4K resolution or its checkerboard 4K resolution or whatever it is, and it's then scaled back down to 1080p. And what this does is it really improves the image quality. If you think about when you take a photo on like a really good digital camera or something, you put that photo onto your computer and like the resolution's like 5,000 pixels in width, right? And when you've got it at its full size, it can look a little bit blurry or whatever, but when you sort of scale it back down to fit on your screen, the picture quality, the image quality increases a lot, and that's the same thing that happens with super sampling. So you've got a really big high quality image and then you're making it smaller to 1080p, and this is a great reason to buy the PS4 Pro if you're not planning to upgrade to a 4K TV, because you're basically guaranteeing yourself flawless image quality. But there is a problem with the PS4 Pro in that a handful of games, not all of them, just a few, most of them do it, but just a handful of games actually don't enable super sampling, which is a terrible idea. And Microsoft has said, no, every Scorpio game will take advantage of super sampling, and this is something Sony really needs to pay attention to. I know that they've sort of said developers can do whatever they want with PS4 Pro, and that's fine, but there needs to be some kind of regulations, and one of the stipulations they need to be mandating is you have to enable super sampling if a player is playing a PS4 Pro game on a 1080p television. That should be standard, there shouldn't be any discussion about that. Another thing that Scorpio is doing really well is when there are options between different modes. So if you take a game like The Last Guardian, that actually has various options, graphical options when you play on the PS4 Pro, between different televisions. So what happens on a 1080p television is you get better performance. If you play on a 4K television, you get slightly worse performance, but you get a higher resolution image. Now, the problem with this is in some games, again, The Last Guardian is one of them, this doesn't apply to all of them, but in some games on the PS4 Pro, you actually don't have a choice. So if you play The Last Guardian on a 4K television, you can't select that 1080p option, which has slightly better performance, and you should be able to. And this is another thing that Microsoft has mandated for Scorpio, is if there's going to be different graphical options, so there's going to be a 4K mode, there's going to be a performance mode, whatever, you'll always be able to pick which one you prefer. And options are a good thing. Remember, these consoles are super niche, are super focused on the hardest of hardcore gamers, and you know, those are the people that are going to want the options and want to pick which version they want to play. So there's two things there that I think Microsoft is doing more elegantly in Project Scorpio than Sony is doing with the PS4 Pro. The good news is that these can both be very easily fixed. They either need to kind of add more options to the operating system of the PS4 PS4 itself, or they need to start mandating to developers, look, you've got to include these options, blah, 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 otherwise you're not going to pass certification. Whichever route they go down, they need to make sure that they implement this as soon as possible and get this sorted out, because it's ridiculous that there are a handful of titles that don't have super sampling, and it's also ridiculous that in Last Guardian, for example, you can't pick between resolution or performance. It's a small thing, it's fixable, but it's something that Microsoft is doing more elegantly, and I think it's worth pointing it out for people that own a PS4 Pro. I think we want these things sorted out. Sony needs to kind of, you know, figure this stuff out. You know, Microsoft's had a little bit longer to kind of think about their approach, to see all of Sony's mistakes and come up with better solutions. Sony now needs to make sure that it's on the ball and it's getting stuff fixed and the way they should be. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments section, and thank you so much for watching.